Good afternoon. You're listening to Sophie's Parlor with your host, Violetta, and I am extremely pleased to welcome singer, songwriter, author, two times TEDx speaker, coach, and much more, Emma G. Welcome, Emma.
Thank you so much, Violetta. It's wonderful to speak with you again. It's been a
Yes.
minute.
Yes, it's been a while, but I've been keeping up with you and I'm very proud of all of the work that you're doing. And as always, you're into empowerment, but I'm into empowerment too. And I want to empower you in any way that I can. The things that you are doing are wonderful. Before we start talking about that, though, I'd like for you to give those who don't know you a little background on, your music and how you've come to give the input that you've been giving in our community.
Well, thanks. Yeah, so first of all, hello. I am Emma G. I am a singer-songwriter predominantly. But I think, gosh, since the last time we spoke, things have kind of evolved quite quickly. I've now written two books and working on my third at the moment. I ran a podcast called Reconnect with Your Teenager, which is also now a television, I guess, talk show. But that's, in the ether of the world of television, which is wild to me. And TEDx speaker twice now, which is again a blessing. But I mean, the reason why I'm sort of stumbling over my words a little bit is because the crux of who I am as a person, as a musician, is just somebody who wants to help, really. Somebody who wants to use music as a vehicle to empower and motivate and remind people of their worth and their value. So my whole thing is about, yeah, using music and helping people to write their own music with a message that empowers people, that inspires people, and just reminds people of how much control they have when it comes to recreating or rewriting their destinies.
Great. What were the books, the titles, in case someone would like to look at those?
Sure. So the first book is called My Life, My Songs, My Healing. And that catalogs 23 songs I've written throughout my lifetime, and kind of why I wrote them and how I wrote them. The second is Reconnect with Your Teenager, same name as the show, the podcast show that I run, which is again like it's about the power of music, but it's specifically catering for parents and how they can use the art of songwriting as an activity, as a tool to help their teenagers understand themselves better, communicate themselves better, and reconnect with their communities more effectively. And then my third soon to be book
Great.
is called From Pain to Playlist, Turning Struggles into Song, which is, of course, the name of my second TEDx presentation that just came out a couple of weeks ago.
Wonderful, wonderful. You mentioned helping parents connect with youth. What was your inspiration for starting down that road to assist parents with that?
Well, that's a really good question. And it was never like it wasn't one thing. I think a lot of people sort of think, oh, there was this one moment that
Yes.
changed everything. That was not the case for me. First and foremost, I struggled a lot with, communication with my parents and my community at large, if I'm being honest, when I was a teenager, due
Mm-hmm.
to, the huge number of traumas that I experienced at a very young age. But I found that writing music was a really useful tool for at least helping me find the verbiage to express myself healthily and effectively and correctly, I guess.
Yes.
And then, when I was 19, I had an incredibly traumatic year where my surrogate brother, who was 3 weeks shy of his 21st birthday, passed away from a complication with diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
My surrogate father died from alcohol poisoning. My ex-boyfriend deleted himself. And then my boyfriend at the time broke up with me. And so I was kind of like left in a wallow. But it was driving to my ex-boyfriend's funeral that I was really like, I need to do something. So many of my friends at that time were struggling with their mental health. And I mean, I was struggling as well, if I'm being honest. But I knew that there was something better out there. And I wanted to kind of do everything I could with my music, with my whatever role in the world,
Yes.
to try and help other people, other young people specifically. And then I got into youth work as a profession when I was 23 and worked, in with the YMCA and different youth camps. Moved to the States and worked in Massachusetts, and then as an outdoor science education teacher in Connecticut. So youth work has always been like the thing, but it wasn't until 2019 that I combined those two things, music and youth work, to create Yes Youth Coaching, helping young people step into their power of their voices using songwriting. And yeah, it's been a wild ride with the pandemic and with everything else that goes along with the last few years. But it's been a really beautiful opportunity for me to just try to combat the isolation that so many of our young people are facing, and the stress and the anxiety and the pressure and the so on and so on, that so many people, children, teenagers, adults alike, are just really struggling with.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for doing that impactful work. Yeah, and I have to give you kudos for being a survivor and helping your struggle, using your struggle to help others. That is really, really
Thank
a
you.
wonderful thing to do. I wanted to also talk about you've been doing some music on the music side too. You didn't you just have you were at Howard University, is that correct?
Yes, I was. And I've just been emailed about doing another presentation there potentially this Friday, which is wild. Um, yeah, so I mean, just because I'm really diving into this whole youth workspace does not mean that I'm stepping away from the music space. I think it's really important. Yeah, I think we have a tendency, and this was something I was deliberating on when I was first preparing for my first TEDx performance back in 2022. Um, I think we have a habit of marrying ourselves to one narrative and kind of identifying with this one part of ourselves that kind of blows my mind a little bit, because we're such complex human beings. So I struggle to understand why we tend to just kind of have one identifier. But for me, I decided I wanted to lean into several parts of myself, being a musician as well as a youth worker. And that's specifically because I wanted to not just do the work with the young people, but also show the work. I think it's one thing to preach the message, but when you actually live that message yourself, that has a whole different impact. So, at the beginning of this year, I decided I would release a single every month, in honor of our cause or awareness that was being celebrated that particular month. So this month it's Depression Awareness Month. So I've released a single called The Way I Am, about that honors that struggle for my own journey. And of course, as luck would have it, I wrote that song when I was 14. In fact, most of the songs that I released this year and I'm still releasing are songs that I wrote as a young person, because I think it's really important for young people that I work with to say, oh, this has actually been something that Emma G has been doing her entire life. So,
Yeah.
walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Oh yes, that's wonderful, Emma G. And I like the fact that you are highlighting that we're multifaceted, and why should we be like confined to a box or made to pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you are really showing that, and that is wonderful. You say one song a month?
Yes. But they're all
Whoa.
songs that I've recorded, like, or written previously,
Okay.
so it wasn't like I was, trying to, oh, I've got to record this song this month. It was all, they were all written, between the ages of 12
Mm-hmm.
and 23.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, there was a time back in 2020 that I wrote a song a day. No, it was 2021, sorry. That I wrote a song a day for 30 days straight. And then, of course, I decided to take 12 of those songs and record an album with it. But, I just like to live stressed. No,
You set a very high bar for yourself, right?
I like to, create. I like to lead by example. And I know that a lot of people look at me and think she does too much. But when I think, and I was just saying this earlier today at Howard, when you have a spirit of service, you really just want to lead by example as much as possible. But yeah, it's a busy life, but it's a fulfilling life at the same time as well.
Yes, that's very, very nice. And you also had recorded "Tell Me About a Song." I mean, Barbed Wire.
Barbed wire,
Barbed Wire,
yes.
yes. And All This Love. You want to talk a little bit about that because I'm gonna play it, and we like to know the inspiration.
Sure. Well, All This Love is a track that I wrote not long after I actually moved here to the States. Um, how do I explain this? I am a mixed race human, where, my mother is white American from Erie, Pennsylvania. My father was from Fiji. My grandmother's from Norway by way of Iowa. And my grandfather was from Iran. And I was born in New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I find the issue of race really fascinating. But more fascinating, I think, is that when I was, when I first moved here and I started dating people, a lot of the people that I talked to, were just like, good luck. But there was one person that told me that if I was going to date somebody in America, I needed to date somebody that came from where I came from. And that to me was just like, well, that doesn't even make sense. So, so I wrote this song, All This Love, about the fact that love doesn't see color, it doesn't see race, it doesn't even see gender. It sees people. It sees, love, and that should be celebrated and honored and respected. And I was really humbled that one of DC's bright shining stars in the hip hop world, Pink Money or Nia Monet,
Mm-hmm.
heard the song and was really keen to jump on the track. And she delivered a dope verse, which she's pure energy. She is. So I'm really excited about this particular track. And then Barbed Wire was a track that I again wrote when I was a teenager. Unfortunately, the subject matter is quite traumatic, but it's an issue that I needed to address. April in this country honors Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And I felt like the best thing I could do for that month was to dig up the song that I wrote when I was 15, not long after my 15th birthday, if I'm being honest, um, and, release it to the world, to show that, yes, trauma is something that happens to all people of all ages. And as much as we like to ignore that, but that with the right help and support, we can create something beautiful from that trauma. So I was really honored that my producer Flight Boy did a phenomenal job on the track. And then Gene Sizemore, the videographer for the music video, again put his heart and soul into the song, and we ended up winning silver in this year's Telly Awards, which is mind-boggling.
Yes, congratulations. And thank you
Thank
so much for being vulnerable and taking people along with you on your journey to help them. In
Thank you.
closing, would you like to tell people how they can connect with you, Emma
Of
G?
course, I would
Yes.
love that. Yes,
Okay.
the best way to find me is at emmagmusic.com, which is my website. If you Google Emma G Music or just Emma G, chances are my face will show up. That's what happened at Howard University this afternoon. So that was, you know, that was good. Affirming, I should say. Otherwise, you can look on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, Emma G Music, or Facebook at Emma G Speaks.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Emma G. It was a pleasure as always, and keep up the good work. So
Thank
proud
you
of
so much.
you. All
Thank you,
right.
Violetta.
Thank you.